the cold hard truth. Everyone really want to know what's going on with her show. Just get on the air and you will know it's Sandra. The queen of the mile road is here, helping people from everywhere. Get on the phone and you will hear Sandra. Now she will tell you how it goes, but don't you ever step on her toes, 'cause you will hear the cold hard truth from Sandra. They say she's the hero in town, helping people from all around. You get a call, your money is found, it's Sandra. Some will call her late at night just to say that there is a fight, and she will not just leave it alone. She'll get up and call on the phone, and when politics starts on her show, everyone really wants to know the way the things will really go with Sandra. And some will start to criticize, get on the show and tell pure lies, but someday we'll realize it's Sandra. And when they start to argue again, she'll pull the heads to the wind, and soon you will be a friend of Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone wanna hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra. 'Cause every day everyone got to hear from Sandra.
All right. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Monday. How's everybody doing this beautiful Monday morning? So good to see you guys. Good morning, Abby. Abby was the first one in the comment section today. Good morning, Irvelyn. Barbara G's here. Marshall, tell us a little bit about the weather in North Carolina. Has the snow disappeared? Are things warming up a little bit? Give us an update. We are going to live vicariously through you and everybody else who's been experiencing this super cold weather. Strong Will, good morning. Miami was chilly on Friday. Definitely sweater weather. You had to put on a sweater, but it wasn't too bad. Yeah, they had a little bit of breeze. It was the breeze that made you go. The breeze put a chill in your bones, honey child. But yep, other than that, it was beautiful, actually. I think sometimes you kind of need the change to appreciate the sunshine. You know, without the rain, you don't appreciate the sunshine. And certainly the cold weather makes you appreciate the warm weather equally as well. So hope that you guys had a wonderful and safe weekend. We do have the premier who is going to be joining us here shortly, the Honorable Andre Ebanks. So we're going to do something a little bit different for these segments, just to give our guests an opportunity to get through their talking points. Because trust me, I wish they could come on every week, but you know, their schedules don't really permit that. But they always have a long list of things to discuss. So when they do come on, what we'll do, folks, is we'll give them an opportunity to at least partially get through their list. I think the list this morning is a bit ambitious, but you know, this premier, he's ambitious. So we're going to go through as much of it as we can, given the time allotment. And then what we will do is we will go ahead and open up the floor at that point for questions. All right. So I think that's probably the best way to do it, because otherwise it becomes a little bit disruptive to take calls and questions and so on in between. So that'll be the format. We did it on Thursday with Minister Jay as well, and it worked quite well. So I think it'll be fine. We'll highlight, your comments will still show up on the screen. And I do believe that their various teams will go through afterwards and look at any additional comments and questions that you have for future discourse. Okay. So we're going to just give him a few minutes to get in the studio, and then we'll get started. So Super Bowl Sunday, how was it? Boy, oh boy, oh boy, I tell you what, Cayman was buzzing last night. What can I say? I was sitting here kind of watching it. I'm not really an American football fan, but you know, we all watch it for the halftime show. I feel like probably a good 50% or 60% of the viewers watch American football, particularly the Super Bowl, just for the halftime show. We are not watching it. I don't even know who won last night. When I turned it off, the score was 9-0. Did that change? I have no clue. So, but what I can tell you is that we were all watching the halftime show with Bad Bunny. And, you know, we were sitting there minding our own business, watching the show. And towards the end, my phone started going ping, 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 ping. And I was like, what? What's going on? Oh, is the liquor store getting robbed again? No, better than that. The best news ever. Our little Cayman flag was right there being represented at the Super Bowl. Never have I ever seen our flag being represented quite like that on American soil. And trust me, everybody was so happy. We were all like, oh my God, did you see that? People were just messaging me, Sandy, did you see the Cayman flag? And some people couldn't believe their own eyes. Some people were like, wait a minute, is that real? Did we really just see the flag? And I was like, yeah, that was it. People were sending me pictures. And I was just like, oh my God, then I started to get videos. So the Seahawks won. Who were they playing again? I tell you what, I don't have a clue. But what I do know is we had immense pride last night seeing our flag. Now, he didn't mention Cayman by name. He mentioned Jamaica, which I thought was nice. And, you know, his show was all about unity and love. And so he had a number of the, because I know Belize flag was up. So he really was representing the Caribbean, Latin America, and the Caribbean. So it was fantastic. Yeah, I love it. Thank you, Bad Bunny. I don't know who was carrying the flag, though. I was kind of like, who's carrying your flag? I reckon most of us didn't care. We're like, hey, flag is represented. It's just a moment of national pride. If you understand, you understand. If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. But, you know, we're such a small little country that any sort of recognition on the international stage makes us feel so proud. Positive recognition. Yeah. So that was nice. It was, you know, thank you, Bad Bunny. I really enjoyed it. Now, did I understand the music? Not really. I'll be honest with you. I've heard of him, obviously, but I wasn't really familiar with any of his music. And after last night, I'm like, okay, this is straight up Latino pop. Reggaeton, a little bit of reggaeton mixed in maybe. At times, the entire Super Bowl was done in Spanish. The halftime show. Mm-hmm. So listen, 70-something%, I think it was 73% of Americans don't even know that Bad Bunny is an American. Now, low key, I think that that's funny. And it certainly says a lot about America. But just in case they didn't get the memo, Puerto Rico is part of America. They're all Americans. You can't deport them anywhere. All right? Hey, chill. So, sounds like Americans need to educate themselves. I'm just saying. Not for nothing. But a lot of them sound awfully ignorant. They don't have a clue what's going on. Kind of sad, but there you go. So what did you guys think of the halftime show? By the way, you saw the couple that did the whole marriage thing. That was a real wedding, apparently. Like they really did get married at the Super Bowl. So that might be a first. I can't recall anyone ever having gotten married at the Super Bowl halftime show before. And Lady Gaga, that was her. I almost didn't recognize her, to be honest. Marla and I were sitting there going, who is that? But Lady Gaga, who's very, very talented, by the way. She is amazingly talented. She's also known for kind of switching up her looks quite a bit. And so, sometimes you don't always recognize her as such. And then on the other side of the spectrum, the Trump supporters who are anti-Bad Bunny, I guess, they decided to have their own show. This is, I'm confused. Turning Point, that was the guy that unfortunately got assassinated. What's his name? Charles Kirk or something. His wife is pregnant now, by the way. Mm-hmm. Somebody better do a DNA test in that situation. But anyway, she is pregnant and having presumably their third child, but I don't know about that. So they had their own concert, but wasn't he supposed to be like a big time Christian and part of this religious group? So why did he have Kid Rock leading the concert when Kid Rock has been singing songs and talking about how in his music, how he prefers underage girls? That's not very Christian-like at all. What the heck? Oh my God, America, you guys have lost the very definition of what it means to be a Christian. Oh my God. I can't believe it. I'm shocked at what we have turned things into. But there you have it. That's I guess the new American version of Christianity. You better be okay with pedophilia. Y'all turning the clock back in time. What a hot mess. All right. Well, they had lots of eyes on their show. It was being blocked for copyright reasons in some locations, I understand. I think they had about 4.6 or 5 million viewers at the peak of their anti-Bad Bunny show. But Bad Bunny had like 130 million people. So no comparison there whatsoever. All eyes were on him. And in fact, I do believe that there were some people who like Trump, who were on the other side, who still watched Bad Bunny because they wanted to see what all the excitement was about. And then Trump said that it was a despicable show. Well, why are you watching it? Lord have mercy. I just have to laugh at these people. And I said, yeah, that's despicable, but not what y'all doing on Epstein Island and at Mar-a-Lago. That's in those Epstein files. None of that appears to be despicable because he said y'all need to just get over it. Well, big shout out to our friends across the pond in the United Kingdom, the UK. They seem to be willing to hold people accountable who showed up in the Epstein files. Did you guys see this? We actually posted this and I thought, wow, it's good to see our lovely mother country trying to do the right thing. So over there, people are getting kicked out of housing, Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew, and other people could potentially be facing criminal charges because of the alleged activity that they were going on with in those files. So that is pretty wild. Wow. I like it though. I like the accountability. I think it's about time. A lot of people were unfortunately victimized. I mean, I can't believe how many kids. Did you guys see the one video during the halftime show with some of the victims coming forward? Doing an anti-trafficking message. Yeah. So UK leader's chief of staff quits over hiring of Epstein's friend as US ambassador. Good for them. So he was responsible. This British Prime Minister Keir Starmer's chief of staff resigned on Sunday after there was, discord surrounding the appointment of Peter Mandelson as UK ambassador to the United States of America, despite his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Yep. So people are stepping down. People are getting removed. People are getting fired, but only in the UK. In the US, it seems like you'll be rewarded, quite frankly, for being in those files. So continue to watch this space. It's pretty interesting. Unbelievable at times, but interesting nonetheless. All right. So big shout out to all the safe drivers out there. And for those of you who are not safe drivers, well, the police need to start dealing with you. So let me see here now. Let me just, there was a request yesterday for us to assist a cyclist who was involved in a hit and run. Yeah, he's got head injuries and he's in the hospital now. Someone knocked him off his bike there on, let me just get the name of the street. And they just kept Wahoo closed around 4 p.m. And the victim's in the hospital with serious head injuries. And the driver just kept driving. So if you saw anything around 4 p.m., I don't even know where Wahoo Close is, to be honest. But if you saw anything, please let the authorities know. Let me just check and see where Wahoo Close is. All right. Okay. All right. Someone said, good morning, Miss Sandra. I can't get you. Strange. We definitely got about 300 people getting me. All right. Let me refresh the links. Just hold on one second, honey child. They should be the same. So literally nothing changes with the links anymore. Oh, that's because I haven't updated them. My bad. Hold on. I see the problem. Okay, let me refresh. Un momento. All right, let me do this and then we will be well on our way. And did you guys notice let me just see here now. Did you guys notice the Public Works graduation on Friday, the graduation ceremony that we aired? I hope that you guys were able to catch that. That was really nice. So proud of those young men, and particularly the young ladies. The young women stepped up to the plate as the, top of the class, doing so well. Really, really proud of them. So fantastic. Hopefully, if you didn't get a chance to view it, please go back on our social media channels and you'll see it there. All right, the links have been refreshed. So now you should be able to get it. Thank you so much for the reminder to do that. Yeah, the weird thing is we can only refresh, especially Facebook, once the stream is actually live. Right. Okay. So I think we're all good now. So beautiful folks. What else was going on for the weekend? Let me just see the telephone number 936-2626. Like I said, once our premiere comes on, we will ask for you to hold your questions towards the end, and then we'll open up the lines so that people can get all their questions in at that particular time. Beautiful. All right, wee. Good morning, Sadiqa. Hello, how are you? Miss Olivia is here. Anna Kieran says, hi. Okay. Hi. You might not be a regular here, but yes, we are Caribbean people. Respect is due to all of the world. I just love the unity message last night. I got to tell you, the unity message was really, really nice. So Marshall says the snow is all gone, but it's super cold. This morning, it's 18 degrees. Brrr. Oh my goodness, 18 degrees. Wowie. Nathina, good morning. Patricia Blake in the house. Adriana, how are you? Says best halftime show ever. Yes, sir. Adriana had on her dancing boots. Seattle Seahawks won 29-13. Thank you, Marshall. I was kind of wondering. I thought, wow, going into the halftime to have it be 9-0, I was like, is this going to be like what Super Bowl had the lowest score ever? Hold on, let me ask my trusty AI assistant. What do we call my AI assistant again? I keep forgetting her name. Are we going to call her Samantha? So what Super Bowl had the lowest ever scoring? Yeah. Let's see. And thinking, researching, bam. The lowest scoring Super Bowl in NFL history is Super Bowl. Oh Lord, I hate when they give me the Roman numerals. 53. Was that it? Hold on. I got to cheat and look this one up. I'm not very good with my Roman channel. Yeah, 53. All right. Because I once you get past like 20, I don't know what the other numbers are for. So L is 50. So it's 53. In that game, the New England Patriots beat the Los Angeles Rams 13-3 for a combined total of just 16 points. And what's the highest? Let's check it out. So the highest, let me see. The highest score was, oh God, here we go again with the Roman numerals. Is that 29? Okay, yeah. 2 10s and then a 9. Okay, so it's 29. And the highest score was, let me see who played. It was the San Francisco 49ers who beat the San Diego Chargers 49-26 for a combined total of 75 points. Wow, San Francisco 49ers won they got 49 points. Interesting. All right. Thank you, Anna. She said the Seahawks won. Mitzi, good morning. Hello, Damaris. How are you? Miss Lucille, so good to see you from across the pond. Craig Ebanks said, in my opinion, that was the worst halftime show ever. It switched to the Honeymooners. Ha, ha, ha. Okay. Well, everybody has an opinion, Craig. But I can tell you that most people actually enjoyed it, even if they didn't understand what Bad Bunny was saying. They thought it was a good performance. And that's what it's all about, right? It's about performance. Now, what I really loved, and Edgar touches on this, he says, good morning, Sandy. Bad Bunny brought out roots and the inter-Caribbean Latin culture and tradition. Big up Cayman flags and Nicaragua. So Edgar, I think that what was even more important then the music was the unity that was displayed and the culture. You're absolutely right about the tradition. So we saw, for example, the straw hat, which we're all familiar with, our thatch hats. We saw the cane fields. A lot of Latin America and the Caribbean is very much intertwined, and we share a lot of very, very similar cultural identity, and it's all weaved in together. So yes, I absolutely loved that representation. And to be honest, I briefly saw on Facebook this morning the opposite show. What are they called again? Whatever that show was called, but Kid Rock. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't understand a word he was saying either. So from the perspective of language, it hardly mattered. I didn't understand Kid Rock, and I didn't understand Bad Bunny. At least Bad Bunny was speaking Espanol. I think Kid Rock was actually speaking English, and I still couldn't make out the gibberish, and sounded a lot like, back in the day, what we call head banging, devil worshiping music. That's what that sounded like to me. And that was supposed to be the Christian position? Okay, y'all special. But anyway, I didn't understand either one, so it was neither here nor there from that perspective. But in terms of like cultural representation, inclusivity, the unity, the flags, like all of that was on point. Like it was beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. And again, our Cayman flag, once we saw that started to wave, I was like, oh my God, my little heart just like loves that flag. Good morning, Hermes. How are you? KK says, interested for when the premiere comes on. I surely want to hear about the housing, etc. Well, that is in his area, by the way. That's Minister J. But again, listen, Minister J has made a commitment to come on at least once a month now. So we got him locked in. Ministry matters for his ministry. So we will get to the housing conversation with him because it is a very, very important one. And I do understand that there is quite a bit that is happening there. So hopefully the next time he's on in March, because he came twice this month. Well, I guess technically that was the end of January and now February. So he'll be back, KK. So we'll get him to answer that question. So don't forget that the ministers actually have very specific areas of responsibility. So although the premier is, the overall leader, there is quite a bit that he is also responsible for. So let me see if I can find, in fact, someone keeps reminding me about the chart of areas of responsibility. Let me see if we can find that for the ministries. Responsibility. All right, let me see if I can put my hands on that. Ministers, real quick. And then we can tell you exactly what areas fall under the Honorable Premier Andre Ebanks. All right. Jim says, best halftime Super Bowl show ever was 2007 with Prince, Purple Rain, followed by Michael Jackson in 1993. How do you determine what was the best? Is it based on the number of views? Jim says the unity was spot on. The performance was mediocre. Because if you do it based on the number of views, definitely the halftime show last night had the most number of views. So let's see what Super Bowl halftime shows. I think Michael Jackson is in the top 3. I don't think the Prince is, though. Let me see. Let's give the top 5. So the top 5, I know that Michael Jackson is, I think, number 2 or 3 on the list. The most viewed. Oh, okay. They don't have last night's show on the list, but they said the most viewed so far, I guess, 2025 with Kendrick Lamar had 133.5 million views. Michael Jackson was a close second with in 1993 with 133.5 million views. Usher had 123.4 million. Rihanna is in the number 4 spot with 121 million. And then Katy Perry in 2015 with 118 million. So I don't know if they don't have the numbers in yet for Bad Bunny. That's possible. But he might move up into the top 5 spot and somebody else, because I heard numbers coming in definitely well over 100 million. Okay. So that'll probably in the next couple days kind of trickle in. All right. I think our guest is ready. Are we ready, folks? Costing. KK says regarding costing, etc., that the premier spoke about. Okay. All right. You watch Compass Media? Okay. So I don't know contextually what that question's about, but if he spoke about it already on Compass Media, you want him to speak about it again? Okay. Mellow Fellow said the set design for the halftime show was epic, in my honest opinion. That's the part that really stood out for me. Obviously, the unity was amazing, but the different scenes, like at first I'm like, is he even on location? Because this looked like this was being shot somewhere else. So I agree that the set, as you say, I think that's the correct word for it, was really amazing. Like I said, the whole sugarcane, the straw hats, and he moved from like different scenes. It wasn't just like singular stage. He actually moved through, the wedding scene was different. Lady Gaga was obviously in a different stage. So they had different areas earmarked. And I thought that, yeah, that was pretty cool. And that a lot of preparation obviously went into that. Mellow Fellows' intersection of the various Latin Caribbean cultures was beautiful. There were people playing dominoes. This was fire. Oh, I didn't see the dominoes players. Oh, I need to go back and watch it. I missed that bit. But when he gave the little kid like the Grammy Award being symbolic of him, if you know anything about Bad Bunny's story, he had a dream, like so many Americans, I suppose. And coming from Puerto Rico, he had a dream, and he is now one of the most decorated Grammy Award winners, certainly on the Latin American side. He's won a ton of Grammys now. And so that was his dream. And he, at one point, I think in life, he was like a waiter or something. And look at him now. So he gave the little kid the Grammy representing, you too can have this dream and go far. Okay. KK says, I'm aware of what falls under Premier and Jay, but interested to know why it's not done fairly versus favorites. That's certainly an assumption, and we can ask, but I don't know that the Premier is the one who's sitting there picking people. So you'd probably, if you have a complaint about this sort of thing, do you know the Ombudsman's office is a wonderful office that you can go to report on government? And that's who you should be going to. Going to the leader of the government, the premier, or even a politician to say that something isn't being done fairly is not necessarily going to get you the results that you need. What you need to do is go to the agency that can properly investigate it, come to their own independent conclusion about whether something is being done fairly or not, and then hold the actual agencies or departments or whatever accountable. That's what you should do. All right. Nope, we didn't do anything. All right. Let me see here. Just like discrimination is taught, unity and music appreciation can be taught. Benito delivered on both, and K-Man was also right there, says Belika. Good morning, sir. Miss Anita, thank you so much. No, I wanted thank you for that. I needed more of the breakdown of like, not just the broad areas, but like the specifics. So there's a lot of different specific things, like, what do we call those? Like the agencies and like the trusts, the housing trust and the this and that, like those details, I think would be helpful. All right. Anthony says, realistically, I don't think the government can do anything about the housing situation. Number one, they don't own the land. Well, they do own some land, so that's not entirely correct. And this is why it's important for us to speak to, the respective ministers so they can tell us. there are some projects that are already in the works. So where's the land? Where do they own it? And so on. All right. So we got to make sure that we're dealing right. Okay. Okay, so that's not accurate. Government does own land for the purpose of building these homes, communities. And not only that, but they actually have a program. I don't know if it's active right now, but as part of the National Housing Trust, you can actually build on your own land. Did you know that? You don't need government's land. So if you already have your land, you can actually build on it. Mm-hmm. So that's amazing. All right, let me see here now. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. He wasn't a waiter. He was a grocery bagger about 16 years ago. Yay, go Bad Bunny. I love a good, come from behind story. All right, I think we're ready for the premiere. Let me just finish reading this one real quick from Anthony. He says, number 2, the current affordable housing process is inadequate. You'd have to talk a little bit more about what you mean by that. And number 3, government in the housing business is a no-no. Too much politics instead of business. Interesting. Number 4, government needs to reduce the stamp duty back down, not up. Again, Anthony, I think you got to put that in the correct context, because what they've done, they've increased it on higher valued homes, which has nothing to do with affordable housing. Because let's be fair, if you can afford $1 million or $2 million house, shouldn't you pay more than the average Caymanian trying to get into a little $250,000 house? Think about it. I'm just saying. And when that happens, the real estate companies put up the price and keep the breaks as profits. Well, I think that that's a different conversation to be had. But if the real estate markets, if they continue to put up the price and then people stop buying, I think that hurts them more than it helps them, right? So you got to look at these things a bit more holistically. All right. So Greg says last night's show wasn't the full version. There's a longer one available. I don't believe his performance was live. The complete show can be found on Apple Music. Oh, I'll go check it out. Thanks, Greg. Morning, Miss Daisy, joining us from, are you in the UK at the moment? She said it was nice to see the flag. Mm-hmm. All right, folks, the Honorable Premier is here. Let's go ahead and give him a warm virtual welcome with your hands, your applaud. Good morning, Honorable Premier Andre Ebanks. How are you?
Mic test. Can you hear me, Sandra?
Loud and clear. Thank you so much.
Good morning to you. Good morning, Cayman and Caymanians overseas.
So good to have you joining us this morning.
Pleasure.
Tell us how you felt. I don't know if you're a football fan, but did you get the opportunity to watch the halftime show last night and saw that beautiful Cayman flag being represented?
It's always bittersweet when your team doesn't make it.
Oh.
So it is easy for interest to sort of diminish when your team doesn't make it. So my team from high school is the Green Bay Packers. And because I did university in Baltimore, I have a soft spot for the Ravens. Okay. Neither made it. So that's bittersweet for me. Okay. However, for the enjoyment of the game, I thought it was at first like, guys, we need more scoring. It was just field goals for a while. And it was kind of quiet. I thought in terms of the halftime show, I thought the scenery. I heard you. I heard a bit when I logged in. Similar to you, I was wondering whether or not the performance was not in the stadium because of how well decorated it was. It really is like, is he zooming in from somewhere else? And then when they zoomed out, I was like, wow, the decoration was fantastic. I don't know. You said, I think I heard you say you didn't see the dominoes. I saw the dominoes.
I missed it. I'm gonna go back and watch it.
Go back and watch. I mean, it's just like you're at home. So I thought it was a wonderful representation of the entire Caribbean. And of course, the whole house blew up. I saw WhatsApp chat groups blow up when you saw the Cayman flag. So prominent. And you actually heard him say, Cayman. It was
You see,
awesome.
I missed that too. I gotta go back and watch it.
I can send you someone sent me the exact like 40-second clip just for that moment.
I'm gonna go back
I'll forward
and
it
watch
to you after the show.
Absolutely.
It was incredible.
It was good. It was wonderful to see the immediate response from all over the world. People were like, "Did you see her flag? Did you see her flag?" I thought that was Cayman. Like some people weren't sure. They're like, because you know, flag is kind of similar. But when they're like, "I think I saw her flag,"
it was unmistakable. Unmistakable. And then he said it. I think he said it right before Mexico.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm going to go back. Yeah. KK says I'm missing out. I'm definitely going to go back and listen to it because I didn't hear Marlon heard Jamaica being called. So I was like, okay, well, if he called Jamaica, maybe he called Cayman as well. So I will definitely go back and have a listen. But yeah, it's just it's a fun show. Obviously the halftime show, but it's so nice to see that level of unity, to see the Caribbean, Latin America being so interconnected, you know, and represented so well. And I don't know who was carrying your flag, but thank you. You did a good job putting it in high.
That's what I wanted to know. Who is the carrier of the
curious too, but yeah, I love it.
But whomever it was, I love the fact that they were bold, loud, and they had it high.
And they were waving
and made sure that they came. I don't know if the person realized that they were coming into the lens, but it was obvious. Every red-blooded Caymanian went wild. My phone blew up.
Yep, absolutely. So we are Plain and Straight welcoming you to this show. So it's a big welcome to Premier Andre. We're always so happy to have him and our government members come to visit us. And of course, we've already got 400 people watching you this morning. So let us get this show on the road, plus countless more are listening on radio as well, 103.1 Bobo. Big shout out to Stingray Media. So it's so nice to have you here. You know, I feel like we don't see you enough, but when we do, we've got lots of ground to cover. So let's get into it. Thank you so much for leading this coalition government. So many people, for the first time, I think in a long time, feel very, very optimistic about the things that our government has in the pipeline and what is actually happening. So let's do a bit of a recap, if we will. We're about 8-9 months in?
8 months in. I mean, can I just start by saying thank you for those comments.
You're welcome.
And that for all of us who are in Parliament and all of us who are in government, I mean this sincerely. It's a sacred duty. I mean, I know world over there are thoughts on parliamentarians, but when a voter goes into the booth, ticks to your name, puts a tick next to your name and indicates that they want you to be their representative, and you have an opportunity to weigh in on decisions and shape the future, I mean it sincerely, it's a sacred duty and it's an honor. To recap, as you would know, May last year is what you indicated. We put forward a coalition government, the NCFC, and it has been flat out 8 months of work. And I'm so appreciative of the level of professionalism on the team, the level of passion on the team, the level of purpose to make this really a term of transformation. The caucus meetings are a joy to chair. That doesn't mean that there aren't differences of opinion. There should be. It's healthy for there to be, as long as it's done constructively and as long as it's done with respect.
Yes.
So we get into the meat of issues. We get to the heart of matters, and we keep laser focus the people of the Cayman Islands, but it's done in a very collegial manner, which I'm proud of. If you ask for a recap, there's many milestones that could be said, but if you take it right from the top, he came in, I think, hit the ground running. Credit to the civil service team who right at the first, what they call senior leadership team. So that would be the DG and all of the chief officers analyzed each of our manifestos and presented what they thought from the outside looking in and watching all the forums and debates, what they thought would be the short, medium, long-term wins for the country. We took that and was very appreciative of that work being done in advance. Then we took from that list and decided what we were going to go forth with. We had a strong performance, which led to a transparent 100-day report. Think about within that 100-day report, around that time, we had the first cabinet meeting in the BRAC. I would like to lay a marker down here that I've mentioned to the speaker that it might be good in this term to also do a parliament in the BRAC. But we've done cabinet. We should do another caucus and cabinet there as well. But it would be good, I think, within this term to also have a parliament in the BRAC. We secured large tracts of land and significant tracts of land for government or environmental purposes. We dispelled all the back and forth about, well, how will you all work together? We drafted and all signed in public view and recorded and sent out a coalition agreement to set out our values and our purpose and our manners of working. Then strategically moved back what they call the SBS strategic policy statement to closer align with the budget and the coalition agreement so that you had the manner in which we're going to work, but the goals that we were going to set forth. And then, of course, pass the budget. And between that time, there's still other work going on, following up on infrastructure in each of our constituencies. I think just about every member had one, if not two, district meetings or constituency meetings in the case of some of those who have smaller constituencies. We also had to deal with the unexpected. Hurricane Melissa. Thank the Lord it did not hit us, but that does not detract from the level of preparation that can wipe out an entire week to prepare as if it's going to. Because if, say, for example, any government sits back and then kind of wagers that it's not going to hit us, and then it does, then where was everybody and where was the prep? So you do have to pause the work that you're on, which can take out an entire week because it's meetings after meetings after meetings. You're watching the weather. You're making sure that all the preparation is in place. And then you don't want it to hit anybody or do any damage, but it hit our neighbor. So we had to be sure that, look, Jamaica, with the history, the roots, the Caribbean spirit, how they were there for us and Ivan, it was one of the easiest decisions for the term that we have to be first. So during the what they call the NEOC meetings, that's the emergency meetings where you're prepping, we called CEO Fabian Worms and I said, CEO, I want you to be tracking all of the airline slots. And the minute that they're willing to bring in aircraft, Cayman has to be one. We have to be one. We have to get there first. He did. We were not just one, we were two. The first two flights to land and be able. We did an in-kind donation of about 200,000 US, and then we completed that by the end of the year. There was also international engagement. Myself going to what they call the OECD meetings, that's the main international tax body. Well, it does other things, but it also does tax to find new areas of business in India. I can go on to that when we start to talk about financial services and also the Joint Ministerial Council, where there's an entire delegation. So it's not just myself, Minister Kathy, Minister Ralston, Minister Jay, it was CABSEC, other chief officers, Attorney General, Governor was there, range of meetings of matters that are of importance to Cayman. I think I got up just about every morning, sent voice notes back home so folks would understand, if not every day, every other day, what was happening in real time, because we knew that it was going to culminate with a busy legislative session when we all returned. One thing to probably mention there that was, by all accounts, a very strong success. If you talk about the Super Bowl performance and showing Caribbean culture, Cayman Day 2025 was a fantastic affair. I think we posted about it, a press release about it, to see our young people and then listen to where they are in their studies, what they plan to come home to. I mean, some of them are just studying stuff that I didn't even think was on the radar for me when I was in university. Just just an amazing time to see them celebrate Cayman and be hopeful about the future. Then came home to a busy parliamentary session, major legislation passed in terms of immigration reform. The Caymanian Protection Act is back. And I think I heard earlier a snippet mentioned about the stamp duty. Yes, it had to be increased. And as you rightly said, to put it in its wider context, it was for 2 million and over. And when it came out, we got some feedback from those in the real estate market who were concerned. And so, but listen, we know that historically it had gone as high as 9%, and you're worried about the double digit. But think, we need that extra 1%. All of it matters, because how else are we going to then, which was the root, I think, of the comment, then have additional funding that we can put into affordable housing? So all you need to tell your clients are, yes, it's gone up. There are increases. Governments the world over will increase from time to time when they need financing or revenue generation for other services. But this is you're on one end of the spectrum. Government also has to look at the other end of the spectrum of those who aren't on the property ladder yet. I don't think it's unreasonable for you to be able to go back to your clients and say that. So, okay, now that we have a fuller rationale, yes, yes, caucus, yes, Mr. Premier, we can go back and do that. So it has been, and that on top of all of that, once you're out of Parliament, you're out of cabinet, all of the MPs are out visiting constituents, catching up on appointments, things you couldn't get to, particularly when you're in the executive, when you're in caucus, to be able to do a range of holiday season activities with not only just constituents, other stakeholders, just family and friends. So after all of that in 2025, I looked around at the team and said, look, in my view, as team leader, you all need to power down for the first 2 weeks of January. It is unreasonable to keep working at that level of pace. If we're going to be serious about in the country about physical and mental health, it has to apply to parliamentarians as well. And now notice, I didn't say power off, because I know there were members, and I'm watching the caucus chat and myself, who still approve things, push things along, but at a bit more of a healthier pace, so that you can recharge and be ready to go. So although I heard you mention like to see more of me, and we will do so, but I thought it was important for the team to take that bit of time to recharge, because also it's not just the long hours on them. Think of their families. So typically in Cayman, the holiday season is very well respected, and typically the first 2 weeks of January are on the slower side. Some people are still traveling, haven't even got back yet. So let's recharge, regroup, because we know that the race will be long as we push through 2026. So there are a bunch of other things I could say, smaller infrastructure projects in different constituencies. Shout out to West Bay South and Minister Jay for getting Morgan's Harbor Dock as an example put through. Other members have had other infrastructure projects and other initiatives in their constituencies, but it has been full on, to say the least.
Wonderful. No, I mean, the entire team, I think, has been extremely busy. And I like the fact that you say there has to be some work-life balance there. You guys are not machines. Everyone needs the break to kind of rejuvenate themselves and to keep going, really, quite frankly. So that's good to hear. And I know after travel, I come back and I'm always fatigued. So I can only imagine you did a number of countries, kind of back to back, what that might have been like. So already getting some early comments and feedback. Like we said, we're going to kind of hold some of the commentary until the end of the program so that we can get through some of those key points that we wish to get through this morning. But lots of positive comments from people saying that you're very invested in doing the right thing and fairness, and they really respect you for that. So thank you so much to our listeners for sending the comments through. KK even says, continue fighting for us, Sir Ebanks. So let's keep going. And I do have the video that your GIS team produced for the first 8 months, and we'll play that towards the end of the program as well. I think that's a good recapping opportunity so that people can kind of know what the government has done within not just the first 100 days, but the first 8 months that they have been in as a coalition government. And, there is hope that a coalition government can work effectively together. And so far, this particular team seems to be doing quite well. So let's move on, I know that we have a number of things that we kind of wanted to touch on this morning. Let's talk about the National Coalition for Caymania's vision, the goals, and how we're going to address some of the ongoing cost of living issues.
Thank you. So after the bit of a power down, we then came back to have a retreat and say to ourselves, okay, SPS done, budget done. So now there's actually assigned monies to each of the priorities. What are we going to really drill down to each minister? What are we really going to drill down to complete in 2026? Remember, it's a 2-year budget, right? So what are we going to complete in 2026? It was an interesting exercise because it was done with a bit of an AI tool for members to feed in at the retreat and let it populate, and no one was able to see everybody else's answers. So it was an interesting exercise to see what came back and to see whether it would match what was in the SPS and the budget versus what people were saying. On a couple of occasions, I'm going to read you some of them. I have it here to read you some of the results. On a few occasions, you would see a member go, but folks, we did say we were going to do this, and you know this needs to be done in a particular area. But then you could see the team challenge the other member. Was like, right, but the question was, what can you realistically get done in 2026? That might occur, but it might fall into 2027. And then you could see the relevant members sort of like, okay, so we haven't forgotten about it. So it's not that any of them aren't important. They're all important. But you do have to pace yourself. You do have to prioritize. And you have to, because then if you work on too many things all at the same time, then maybe nothing happens.
Right.
You need to continue to pace yourself and show milestones. So just a few that jumps out at me that we have under the, so you remember that there are 7 broad outcomes in the SPS. First one is education, immigration, workforce development. Minister Anglin working on a launch of a talent graduate program. So the returning scholarship students now have guaranteed employment with private sector partnerships. He wants to get that done. Establish the national workforce strategy. Get that done. Enhance ECAP. Get that done because that's in the budget. This is just to name a few. Housing, infrastructure, and environment. That's under its own broad outcome. Relaunch the housing assistance mortgage program. Address waste management. So finally wrap up the historical regen deal, get the last bits of that finalized. But then once that's done, even though that feels like a journey, and I know Minister Kathy is working very hard on it, but then the next thing is what comes next. Anytime I've ever said that to a constituent, yeah, that's great, that's fine, you need to get that done, but what happens now? Now you then have to come out with a country with a plan on waste management that is manageable within the country's budget that will actually move the ball down the field. Also get done a stormwater management plan. Now that we're developing in different areas, and areas that used to be the catchment area and catch the flooding, now that has now been filled or built on, then that spills into somewhere else. We have to now get our arms around that. On the economy, which will come on to in specific responsibilities under me, is maintaining our international financial standing. So making sure that we're addressing the FATF and other global standard setters to keep our, not just our reputation, but our standards in track. Then also, what's the plan, for example, in the economy for fronting? Is the trade and business license regime 60/40 actually working? Do we need to now reform and look at that? Because if it isn't, then we need to figure out what now will be the enforcement tools. What can we utilize to be sure that Caymanians are actually in the businesses and are actually striking that 60/40 balance as is intended to? Or do we need another construct? So we're trying to work on a reframing of and a revamping of the trade and business license application structure and all of the laws between it that's connected to it, the Local Company Control Act, all into a 2.0. Because I said this on the floor of Parliament, it was all done previously with good intentions when Caymanians weren't in some of these advanced industries, but now we are. So now we need to now retool that legislation. What's going to be the future vision in tourism? Say, for example, the very long-standing issue of Little Cayman's airstrip that needs to be regulated. Should it remain where it is? Should it go further afield? We have a working group now trying to make the case that, hang on a second, you can create a very unique tourist or visitor experience for Little Cayman Airport right where it is, of just regularizing that space. Nothing too fancy, because we all love Little Cayman for what it provides you. It provides you a serene place, a calm place that you can just go back and relax. So why reinvent the wheel? Let's see what a working group is going to come back and tell us of whether or not Little Cayman Airstrip can remain exactly where it is, but have to be brought up slightly to a regulatory, what they call aerodrome standard, so that you can have safe piloting in and out. Health and social development, enact the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act. There's a body of operating regs that need to follow into it. It's overdue. We're behind international standards. The legislation finally was passed within the last term, and now is going to come to fruition, hopefully, as an enforceable law. Minister Kathy has done her press conference with a revamped HSA board. That's going to look forward ahead of what the future is for HSA in terms of health insurance cost itself. So that's one, you have CARE and the minister's vision to take the entity forward of HSA to mainly focus on primary care, now that we have a range of specialists, hospitals and clinics on the island, to make sure that they're doing primary care to the best of their abilities, dealing with their capacity issues. But at the same time, you have the cost of healthcare. So Minister Anglin is also working on that side of it to establish, under the Constitution, Section 54, a minister can establish a committee to work on a particular issue. And his vision is to have a bipartisan committee look at the cost of health insurance and whether or not we need to move to a more universal system and take better and more full advantage of the government's purchasing power to provide better healthcare plans and more affordable healthcare plans. So look out for that piece of work. And then further afield, Caymanian identity and culture. Minister Isaac and I are considering, and it will largely fall that he'll take this forward, as he should, as the Culture and Heritage Minister, is really trying to put together a project to hone our Caymanian identity. It's here, we celebrate it, it's there, and it's, I would say it's kind of, I don't want to say scattered, because that's not the right word. It's present, but I don't know that it's laser focused and targeted, and you can point to it as a project of who we are as a people in the modern context. So what his ministry is going to embark upon, together with Office of the Premier Team and Cabinet Office, is a project in which we then identify what does it mean to be Caymanian in one place. So I've alluded to this on other talk shows and said, when I go to other countries, so say, for example, whether it's India or Singapore, they're some of the most recent, it's undeniable that you are in a Indian first or Singaporean first country. They seem to have been able to hone their identity of who they are as a people. And Singapore is interesting because, similar to us, they're a small international financial services center with a blend of people that come and some become Singaporean, some have been multi-generational Singaporean. It is also used to be a British overseas territory before it became independent. But they seem to have somehow honed what it means to be Singaporean in a more sort of structured way. And that's what I think we're going to want to achieve, at least set out. I don't know that it'll be done in a year, but we should set out in earnest in order to do it. So that just gives you a range of some of the projects that will be taken forward that are within the budget that the government is focused on. But that means that there's also issues that you can't really fit into one particular ministry, like the cost of living. If somebody were to ask me, what's the one thing that's on your mind constantly, is how do we crack the cost of living? I have a couple of thoughts on this, which is why you were asking about the GIS graphic or visual. So if you want to go to that now, because it was interesting on the one hand to hear what people feel, what they're purchasing, what's expensive, but what does the data actually tell us of what is costing households the most? So if you have the bar graph, this might be a good time.
No, I don't actually have that. What I was referring to was your 8-month recapping in
Oh,
video form. So yes, nobody gave me that bar graph, but let me see if I can
okay.
get it quickly from the team.
No. You can maybe show it afterwards because I don't
Okay.
want to slow down the
Yeah.
show
Yeah,
for
sure.
viewers. You can show it afterwards. But when you are able to show it, and it's based on
Yes.
2023, I was asking the team to be sure, but I don't think it would have changed radically in 2024. And of course, 2025 wouldn't be available yet. When you see that what households are spending high by a mile on the bar graph is the cost of energy and the cost of housing. Food, I think, is a distant second on the bar graph. So that means that those are the areas in which, if we laser focus on those, would have the most impact. Energy stands out to me for the obvious reason that we've been talking about for years. We live in the Caribbean under the sun. If we can lower the cost of electricity, then you lower the cost of living so that you're able to then afford more at the grocery store, in the marketplace. So I've said to Minister Anglin, for which off-rec falls under. Minister, we've been working well together. You've got a massive ministry, arguably one of the most important ministries of all of government, not finance, education. You also do have finance, but I need in 2026, the country needs in 2026, a laser focus on the cost of electricity, because it'll not also give households money back if we can reduce that cost. It also gives businesses money back because they will now have to pay less on their utility bills. So this isn't anything new. I believe this was in the TCCP manifesto. I think it was in other manifestos. Once that cost goes down for everybody, which should get passed on to the consumers, if your energy bill in each of the marketplaces are lower and our households are lower, then you have a better cost of living. Because from what I see, there just seems to be too much tension between the regulator, the main utility provider, and the energy, and the green energy group. That means that what those stakeholders need is a clear vision and government leadership as to where we're going. What we want are lower bills. How do we get there? What are the barriers? What policy direction do you need from the government to get there? That doesn't mean that the minister will stick his hand in to approve a particular regulatory application. That shouldn't happen. But what should happen is, what is the macro vision of where we're going? Because it's not just an environmental matter, it's an economic matter. We have to reduce the cost and that pressure. And with green technology already there, so this isn't pie in the sky stuff that will take 5 years. Green technology is already with us, been with us for years, starting to see it more and more. How do we harness that in a larger way and remove whatever the policy or legal barriers are to appropriately get this energy to scale across the country? All right, I think you have the graph now.
Yes.
Look at that. So by far, all the way to the left, in terms of household consumption, it's housing and utilities. By far, according to ESO. After that, it's transport, and then after that, it's food.
Right.
So that means if the top to the left, the top spender, or the top items that are causing us to spend reduce, look how much pressure could be taken off of the country. In addition to that, we have housing, which we touched on at the top of the show. There are a large set of issues to tackle housing, because you have tenants and landlords, and then you have owners, and then you have people who are not even on the property ladder yet at all, and then you have those who require social housing. Let's look at each of these sort of in turn.
Right.
In terms of the homeowner, right now you can go to legislation. Let me get the website, because I'm always in turn trying to, while we explain, also give the public the tools. Many may know this, but legislation.gov.ky has all of government's legislation transparently, and also bills. So if you go there right now and you go and you click on the tab for bills by year, and you click on 2026, the first bills of the year that have been approved by cabinet, and all approved by cabinet, have a registered land amendment bill 2026. What that bill brings in for the first time is a mortgage or a foreclosure protocol. This legislation has been developed from the Law Reform Commission, who put a great deal of work, thought, consultation, looked at other pieces of legislation, I think primarily the UK, so that if there's going to be a foreclosure, the banks now have a more unified code as to how, or procedure as to how they can foreclose.
Let me just ask you again, what is that one called? I'm just trying to find it here on the website.
So I'm watching you now. I'll go up to the top of the screen.
Okay.
All right, now you see right under, see home?
Home.
Top left,
yes.
home.
Mm-hmm.
And then legislation, then links, then bills. Click on bills by year.
Mm-hmm.
Scroll down. These are the bills right now published.
Okay.
So registered land, right to the bottom, registered land amendment bill. Click on that.
Okay. Wonderful.
So for anybody else listening, this isn't just for the purposes of this show. This is where anybody in the public can go. There's no passcode.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a passcode for you, was it? Just
no.
freely accessible.
Yep.
So this bill, we should be coming to the House on the 4th of March. That's when we will resume Parliament. For the first time has an act. If you scroll back up so we could maybe do a little bit of education. So what's called the long title of the bill, right there, a bill for the acts. Let me open it because that's too small for me to read from this screen.
Yes, it says a bill for an act to amend the Registered Land Act 2018 revision to streamline the provisions impacting charges of land, to provide for more informed pre-lending and pre-action process, and for incidental and connected purposes.
Right. So what that means, that's what's called the long title of the bill. What that means and what that's referring to is what the bill encompasses. So for the first time, we will then have one, a pre-action process. So before a foreclosure can happen, what's the process that the bank has to go through per the act? Also, there's also some prior arrangements in terms of making sure borrowers understand the terms before they enter into it in the first place.
Yes.
And then also for the first time, notice period for when there is going to be, I believe it's 30 days under the bill, notice period for when there's going to be an interest rate change. The reason I say this in the housing context is because if you're a homeowner trying to keep up with your bills, now you're provided a greater level of protection before you can face foreclosure, because we don't want people who already have homes, and if they can enter into an arrangement with the bank, and a lot of the banks do a good job of this, I must say, losing their homes and then compounding the housing problem. So that's one. Then we're also trying to get those onto the property ladder in the first place. So what you're going to see is a range of initiatives that will be, one, relooking at the stamp duty. What other breaks and incentives can we have for Caymanians? Myself and a couple of caucus members have been saying this for quite some time, but I'm hopeful it will happen within our term, where if you're a first-time Caymanian buyer, because the amount of the home that you have trying to purchase or you're targeted to purchase is above the threshold in which you'll be waived, you then end up getting charged the full freight of stamp duty. But the purpose of the policy isn't for the government to make money. The purpose of the policy is to get the Caymanian onto the property ladder. So let's move to a system where they pay a percentage above the duty is paid on the percentage between the threshold amount and how much your purchase price is, instead of paying the entire 7% on the whole thing. So we need to then find little ways like that to incentivize Caymanians to get onto the property ladder. Because when I talk to those who are either my constituency or outside of the constituency, one thing after they've gone through the whole gamut of the bank application, which catches them at the end, is stamp duty.
Absolutely.
In addition to that, in addition to that, and then you have to write a letter, and then you have to, and then the minister then has to then decide whether they're going to do it. Let's take all of that out of that. This is your first purchase. We're trying to get you onto the property ladder. Yes, somebody could say, well, then our government will forego that revenue. True. But think of the value that's getting back in the community of the person getting into their own home that they're going to pay for. they're going to be fine afterwards. In addition to that, when we were in discussions with Cereba, when they were discussing their feedback on the stamp duty for over 2 million going to 10%, how else can you answer the call to lean in? So for all of your transactions, how else could you help? They came back unprompted by me. It was just laying out a challenge of how you could lean in. They said that they will, for each of their clients that are theirs, government hasn't cherry picked them, their clients, who they know are first-time Caymanian buyers, where Minister Anglin would have written the letter to confirm that they could get the stamp duty break. Their coffers, they will donate towards either closing costs or to furnishings to help the Caymanian onto the property ladder. So that initiative is there, it's tracked, we're ready for it. We're not involved in the mechanics of it, only to confirm to them that this person, by our books, is a first-time Caymanian buyer.
Right.
So then you have people who are trying to get in their homes, and then you have the long-standing issue that has not been revamped in quite some time, is the relationship between the landlord and the tenant. That legislation is out of date. When it originally has come to caucus within this term. But when we looked at it and saw how vast it was, and the last time there was proper consultation on it, I said, this is going to be confusing. This is not something that can just sort of be thrown out, because think of the passage of time. I don't think the legislation has had a serious look in, say, the last 10 or so years, where Airbnb may not have been a thing. What's the relationship there? There are a variety of different condominiums. The population has increased since then. So before something is just sort of thrown out half-baked that then ends up compounding the problem, Minister, which falls under Minister J, I think, one, we now have had an approved housing policy for the next 10 years, and the relationship between landlord and tenant is an important one and affects everybody. I think your team is going to have to do a significant piece of work within 2026 to do proper stakeholder consultation, and that we reshape that legislation in a way that is mutually beneficial. In terms of social housing now, for those who are unable to then enter or either have been on the property ladder and have unfortunately either lost it or have other struggles that they don't have an income. I've talked about it last term. We identified Crown land in East End, West Bay, a few spots in town. Minister Isaac is now talking to developers and contractors and NGOs to be able to have what I call social or transitional housing. Right now, we all know of cases where people are either on someone's couch or unfortunately at a public facility or in their cars. There's only so much that historically, that from my perspective as a former social development minister, that you can do to negotiate with hotels who were a resource in the past, but have been continued, that window is closed. Only a few will do it now, and if you beg them. And you can understand why. They're meant for staycations and vacations. They're in profit to make business and give someone a leisurely stay. It is not meant for someone who they don't know will stay for what amount of time for a social cause. That now has to fall under the government. People may say, well, Minister or Premier, so a lot of these people have families. Why not just force the families to take them in? In this day and age, I hear that, but at the same time, you don't know what the dynamic is. You don't know what maybe the social reason is, and then you now put that into another household, and then that household becomes challenged. Or even if there isn't any particular danger or other urgency, then the cost of living on that family for the earners then goes up. And then the whole household could then fall into social welfare. It's about time that the government has to get to grips with this and have social housing. Now, I've mentioned this to Minister Isaac and my thought process from last term. It doesn't mean that necessarily government is the day-to-day manager of it. It could be that you enter into a partnership, which is part of what he's looking at, where we have the Crown land, and someone else is going to construct the homes and then manage it, but then government refers those who are clients and make sure that they are smaller groups, not a large set of clients, because there could be different issues. There could be domestic violence, there could be substance abuse. You have to be sure that our social technocrats are looking and studying who's going where and is it a fit. So that will be the government's role of it, but it's not necessarily that the government is managing the facility day to day to avoid what some might say is cherry picking. You've got in here because you know so and so. What we will do is provide the data, give insight as to who might be best placed where, and throughout the country, not all in one place. Because social studies show that if folks look around, particularly those who may still be able, look around and say, all right, this neighborhood seems like it's going to work. I've gotten a new job, a new chance on life. You're more and more motivated to continue to get up yourself than those where if everyone around you is at home. It's social studies show that it's a mindset.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And we had a question earlier about the fairness of the process when it comes to housing allocation. I'm not sure if you've received any direct concerns there, but is there any way to make it more fair and balanced? Like I said to the person, we need more details on exactly what that means. But, some people are complaining about, okay, they've submitted an application and then other applications that were submitted after theirs appear to get fast tracked or prioritized. Can there be a more transparent process on how people get access to government housing? Maybe it's just about educating the public on how the process works. I'm not really sure where the lack of transparency, concerns are coming up, really.
Let us take a leadership position. What a number of us in caucus have said to Minister Jay, which he doesn't refute, is let's summon the NHDT. That's what we're talking about. That's the entity we're talking about. Let's summon them to caucus. Because I'm not sure all of us sitting here as a caucus completely understand the process.
Right.
Because all of us in our constituency office will have a constituent who will come forward and say, I've submitted in 2023, haven't heard anything. I've submitted 2 days ago, no one writes back. The website is still under construction. Not that you're throwing the entity under the bus. We know that there's good work there, but let's summon them to caucus, give them the direct feedback from us. Let us give them pointers and how do we reshape it. So for example, in the area, which is slightly different, but I only make this as a proof point. In the area of housing repair, where now it was in a couple of different ministries, we put it all under the housing ministry, and Minister Dre has digitalized it, has an application, his team can go in and track. That is what the rest of us would like to see for NHDT. So that you can go in, see who's applied, when they applied, where are they in the pipeline, are they, because you mentioned, which is a very good point that I'm glad that you raised, Sandra, are you in the pipeline for those who are going to require government to build a home? Or can you apply for the other part of the program where you have land? So you're not asking to be part of Crown Land, you have land, but you're unable to afford the home. So can we have some identifiable pipelines for the two different programs? Where do folks stand and when will they be dealt with? Because I find in constituency work, if the constituent at least is aware of where they are in the pipeline, even uncomfortable as painful as it may be that they're waiting, they at least know. What drives people, I think, over the edge is that they haven't heard anything.
Right.
So leave that with us as a takeaway, to bring that entity in. We know that the minister's working hard. We know that he's action orientated, but I think we would all benefit from how is this actually working and what are the future plans to make it more transparent?
Okay. And it's the same thing even with job applications in the civil service. I'm not sure if you saw the one where someone applied and 2-3 years later, they're finally getting a response that the position has been filled. And they were like, what position are you talking about? Because so many years had gone by. And I was shocked to see that HR managers in government are literally taking 2 to 3 years. This was actually CBC, so customs, not core government, but still. The fact that someone would be taking years to reply to applicants is just unacceptable. It's not professional in any way, shape, or form.
And what I think, as I said, people appreciate, I mean, obviously if something takes an unreasonable amount of time, people's patience will naturally run out. Mine, yours, anybody's. But normally, if people will understand that government is working at this problem, it's not an easy problem. There will be a number of folks in the so quote unquote queue, but where do I stand?
Right.
But I have some hope, and what government assistance can be delivered in the meantime to offset some of that pain. That's where I think we need to get to with NHGT. But now, there is good news. It's not as if the train is completely standstill. For example, Apple Blossom, West Bay, it's on the move. For Minister Kathy and Minister Jay to be working together, this has been a particular pain point in West Bay Central. It has had a decent start in the last term, but now it should begin to now move at pace. I think it was out on bonfire to get the bids done and completed, and so that works can begin. The chair of NHGT, Mark Scotland, he was there when we did a West Bay update. I think that might have been October, November. We did a West Bay update. He was there. He came in person and delivered remarks to the crowd of where that was going to start. It'd be great to also have that sort of structure replicated in other districts. It's not the only one, but that one has been a sore spot for the country and for the district for quite some time. I'm really happy that it's getting moving, and you have a competent chair that's going to drive it forward. But yes, that same chair and the officers are around. It would be great to get them into caucus to really understand the process.
And hopefully after caucus has an understanding, then we can get them in front of the general public. I mean,
that would be the plan.
Yeah, they serve the public, so we'd love to hear a bit more from them.
Let me confirm that. The whole point of us gaining the fuller understanding is to then be able to communicate it.
Right.
So that we aren't running off half baked. But here's another point that I want to mention.
Yeah.
And I talked about the tension in the area of energy. Minister Anglin, team needs you, we need you, I need you to be all over this, despite all the heavy workload that you have. In relation to the tension that exists between the environment and the development, I've said to both ministers at the same time, Minister Kathy, Minister Jay, and I've said it to each of them separately, we need to have a better relationship between the environment and development. They are hand and glove. If we as a country are proud of the beauty that we have, which we should, it's a major asset. But at the same time, it's also a major asset to have world-class infrastructure. So you need both, and it's possible to do both. The country needs to see the two of you look at your pieces of legislation, policy, and rules, and determine what would make it work better so that the two halves function better as a whole, and we bring it together. That will mean that you'll not only have to have legislative modifications, you may have to have policy modifications. The boards then have to be operationalized to work at that function, and it flow through to the departments. But to continue on a road where it's judicial review and letters before action, that may help in terms of where the case law may be. But I think the country's seen enough of that. How are you two going to work better? How are we going to get to a place where we can have affordable housing, whether you're doing it on your own or through the government, without fighting, without infighting? We need a better, clearer vision to make a stronger, fairer Cayman. And it's the two of you as a chief policy. You'll have the whole caucus behind you, but the two of you need to sit down to get together and decide what is the new framework. None of us should be precious about legislation. Look at me. Right now, Minister Isaac is going to announce that there's going to be additional refinements to the Adoption Act, which is legislation I worked on last term. I don't care. Whatever was there that needs to be enhanced so that it works better for the country. He's in the process of looking to see, now that we've had the Financial Assistance Act on the books in 2022, legislation that when I was a social development minister put forward, he's looking to see whether that works and whether there needs to be refinement there. I don't care. Whatever is going to move the country forward. Can't be precious about these things, and this is my turf or that turf. At the end of the day, all legislation gets a 2.0 or a 3.0. All ministers should be looking ahead to say, what we've seen in the past is that we'll make a very large landmark change and then for some reason or another just stop and not changing. What the country is looking for and the rapid change of pace is looking for is, I'm not saying you'll be working on it every 3 months, that's unreasonable, but when you find that something needs a revamp, let's lean in and actually do it. Have the stakeholder conversations. They're never easy. They're going to be difficult conversations, but the country has to advance and continue this to be a term of transformation.
Okay. All right, time is ticking, so let's do some rapid fire questions and comments that we've got coming in. So this one says, "Morning, Sandy. Can you ask the Premier for his comments about the recent criticism that government is not having enough parliamentary meetings?" I hadn't heard that, so I'm not sure of the source of criticism, but have you heard about recent criticisms that you guys are not having enough parliamentary meetings?
I haven't heard that. In fact, it's the other way around. Typically, what I've heard is that they like the pace of the parliamentary meetings. But the question offers me an opportunity to say to the country, again, for those who may have missed it, the next meeting, so we had one in December. The next meeting is scheduled for the notice has already been issued, the 4th of March. So Wednesday, the 4th of March. And the bills that you clicked on, where you showed legislation.gov.ky, those are the bills that will be before it. There's also motions and parliamentary questions. In addition to that, the Speaker and I believe I shared this with Leader Opposition, definitely with the caucus. The Speaker and I think I also, if I haven't, forgive me, but I also did the independent members, at least MP Saunders, have agreed a tentative schedule of the months of Parliament. So although 4th of March has been set, ideally we would try to meet in April, then June, and then per the standing orders, the House rules, there's a break in the rules for July and August, and then aim to meet again September and November, so that ministries can plan when the next Parliament meeting is. Those who have bills in train know the 28 days constitutional statutory notice period can be observed. They can plan. Simple things like the parliamentary staff at Parliament can know roundabout when the month is going to occur and all the work that they put in there. And members have an idea of when they can go begin to plan and travel. So if they see that May is unlikely to have a Parliament, they can plan their travel then, or they can go on official business then. So those are the arrangements. So I actually hadn't heard that. I actually heard people like seeing us in Parliament, and I'm looking forward to that continuing on the 4th of March.
So I guess the question or the point probably that needs to be understood by the general public is you don't have parliamentary meetings just for the sake of having parliamentary meetings. There has to be material coming to Parliament, right? And it takes time to prepare the bills and all the other materials that has to come before Parliament. So if those materials, not work isn't getting done in between the meetings, having more frequent meetings wouldn't make any sense.
But our job, and I think as busy as we've been, have justified the meetings that we've had.
Right. All right. Second part. Yes.
Just before, because it touches on Parliament, just before the next question is two things that I wanted to announce. Because Sandra, I like to come to your show to provide news and nuggets that maybe others haven't heard yet.
We love that.
I think you like that. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Okay. So
exclusives. Give it to me.
So tomorrow I travel, and this is what touches on financial services, that when you and I work on and finally have the contract for Ministry Matters, I really want to make an effort for the country to understand fully financial services. So it's not maybe necessarily fully understood by those or practitioners and clients that have a widespread general knowledge of it. So this is why I make this point. Number one, and I acknowledge that we started slightly late, so don't feel like you're a slave to 9:30. I'll try to push to 9:45 because I do have a 10 o'clock to prepare for. Tomorrow I travel to the next FATF plenary. Typically, the FATF Financial Action Task Force, even then I shouldn't assume that the acronyms are known by all. That's the international setter for anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing measures, and the body that would have listed any country that falls short either on the gray list or worse, on the black list, and we were on the gray list a few years ago. Those meetings, because its headquarters are in Paris, are normally in Paris, but it is going to be in Mexico, because the FATF is chaired by a president, which is for 2 years. The current president is from Mexico, and they have a custom that the final meeting chaired by that outgoing president is in their home country. So that's why it's in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of going, in case anybody asks, well, why do you need to go? We're not on the gray list.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of purposes. One, under the Mexican presidency, think back, Sandra,
Mm-hmm.
we Cayman were offered, for the first time in FATF history, they started what's called a guest member initiative, where countries who are not, because there are only 40 full voting members out of 200 countries that attend, 40 full voting members started an initiative where they could have a guest member. You'd have all the rights and sit at the big table with the voting member countries to participate, ask questions, state your position. You just didn't have the right to vote because you're not a full-blooded member. So because that initiative was championed by the Mexican president, I thought it was fitting, one, to thank her for Cayman being the first out of 2 countries to ever have that, be a participant in that initiative in FATF history. And we learned a lot from the exercise. Number 2, I also want to see, now that countries are coming up for what's called the 5th round, which for Cayman's 5th round evaluation, which for Cayman will feature December next year, December 2027, starting to see countries now getting assessed under the new framework. I want to see firsthand what will be the challenges. What points do you need to be mindful of in financial systems that will feature majorly in the exam, because it will apply to us. So this one is closer to home. It's not as far as Paris, for that other ancillary reason of thanking and showing appreciation to the Mexican presidency for driving the initiative forward. I'll be going to that. So that will take me through up until, leave tomorrow and then come back on Saturday coming, which is Valentine's Day. Got to be back for Valentine's Day. Tiffany, if you're watching, I'll be home. As long as the flights run on time, I'll be home. I have something planned, I promise. Once that weekend occurs, there's going to be a visiting delegation of UK MPs who are coming to Cayman. And so they will, some of them land on Friday, some even land maybe on Thursday of this week, definitely most in by Friday. And they will then have a full view of Cayman, in particular, on how we are structured from a law enforcement standpoint, from financial services, from the environment. They'll have a better view, so that these are parliamentarians that have been supportive of us so far, but we want to increase their knowledge firsthand so that they go back to the House of Commons and the House of Lords more fully informed and can educate their colleagues. So we will be having a range of meetings, I'm sure will be covered in the in the public domain. I believe you make sure you get an invite. There will be a media roundtable with them. So keep your WhatsApp line open. Office of the Premier will be in touch with you and all the media outlets. Nobody get jumpy. Everybody will be invited. So they will be able to have that conversation, as we did with Minister Dowdy when he came. Then it's by then that puts us to Ash Wednesday. And after the week following Ash Wednesday, I will then travel to CARICOM to meet with the regional leaders in the Caribbean. I think it's a very important conversation for Cayman to take part of as an associate member, given all of the developments in the region and the world. Someone could say, well, could you do it on Zoom? You could, but there's nothing like going to a plenary of that nature with all the Caribbean leaders to be able to sit face to face. And besides just other developments, what other opportunities are there? Who could be a better trading partner, or an enhanced trading partner, or a new trading partner? What else can we learn and help each other with, where we may be able to impart certain knowledge? There are other Caribbean countries that we've assisted in terms of financial services, in terms of knowledge, of regulation, and what in turn can they assist us with. So I think that's going to be a very important conversation at the last week in February. And then after that, into Parliament. So I wanted the public to get a lay of the land of what's coming up in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And financial services, hugely important. I said it on other outlets. I want to say it here again. And part of what we will be giving a greater education on to the visiting UK MPs is Cayman's position on beneficial ownership. Sandra, you are aware of this topic, but if you allow me a couple of minutes to maybe just explain it for those who may not follow it day to day. So this is about all of the business entities, particularly companies and partnerships that are the largest entities. Does the country have who is the human being behind it all? So if there is a business entity here, whether it's a telecom company from around the world, whether it's an investment fund or an investment vehicle, does the country know who is the human being behind it all? So we've established a central register that's been working for years. We exchange information in the tax context. We have international agreements where we exchange information on an automatic basis to 100 different countries every year. And on top of that, we have a framework in which is called an exchange of notes, where if UK authorities are hot on the heels of a bad actor, under a certain process and procedure, they can be given information in 24 hours. What's been requested for many, many years, and there's another round of it, is to have a full public register where you could do a Google search and look to see, does Bobby Jones own this company? Cayman's challenge with that, and a number of other countries' challenge with that, is that then potentially breaches confidentiality and the right to privacy under the Constitution. Our concerns weren't unfounded because in November 2022, the EU grappled with this, where a stakeholder applied to the European Court of Justice to say that Luxembourg's public register was unconstitutional. The court in that, and this isn't some small court, this is the European Court of Justice, came back to say a full public register is unconstitutional. Now, the next thing that sometimes comes up, particularly when I'm in the UK, is to say, well, Premier, we hear you, but the UK is out of the EU, so what difference does it make to you? Hold on a second. The European Convention on Human Rights is a treaty that was bound by all EU countries. Our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, is substantially similar to that when the UK was a member. So our Bill of Rights hasn't gone away because the UK has now left the EU. It still remains. An eminent constitutional counsel have told us, because the provisions on the right to privacy are substantially the same, it's hard for us to see that the Grand Court here could come to a different decision than the European Court of Justice. So you do have to be mindful of the right to privacy. But what the judges in the EU case said was, there's probably one area that we could see, which they call legitimate interest, where if an accredited journalist is on the heels of a bad actor and just needs that bit of data to crack the case, that might outweigh an individual's right to privacy, because the public may be in the public interest to make sure that the bad actor is brought to justice. So that is the standard we have moved to, which isn't because we're capitulating to one country. This is where we could see regional standards moving and it being the next iteration. So rather than what can occur in the past, scramble at the last second and end up on a list, let's be proactive about it. Let's see that has some sense to it. Let's go ahead and meet that standard. So at the moment, where there may be UK stakeholders or otherwise who want full access, we really have to say, I'm sorry, I understand your position and I understand the reasons that you are advocating it, but we have to be mindful of what works constitutionally and operationally in Cayman. And this is what we have at the moment, which is already above the FATF standards. Right. So when the minister was here and when I saw him at JMC, Minister Dowdy, I said, I understand your position. And I understand that each of us faces pressures from Parliament. But at the same time, if we are already at a standard that's more advanced than the international standard, which is what we're going to be graded against, I now need to have the ministry and the government teams now focus and divert their resources to the FATF evaluation, which is going to look at a range of other things. And right now, whether that is asset recovery, how we run a trial, because that was one of the reasons we were graylisted before. Can the country handle a complex money laundering trial? We were able to do that. All of those things now are going to be reassessed. I can't have the team stay on a subject that we've taken it constitutionally as far as we can.
Right. Okay. And someone reminds us in the comment section, they said, and the UK itself remains under the provisions of the EU human rights, just to make sure that that is crystal clear.
That's a very good point, because I've heard in some circles in the UK of whether or not they will revisit leaving the Convention on Human Rights. Well, whether they do or not, I don't know, but you are part of it now. And so, and due to that fact, it also is then, as I said, similar to our Bill of Rights. We have to respect the Bill of Rights. And it's not a cop-out. Think of it. If people would say, well, is this some sort of shield that you're trying to avoid the standard? There are real lives and real consequences for people's data being on a publicly available access or register. And then what happens if harm is done? Or the person who was inquiring was wrong. You can't walk that horse back to the barn.
Right. Okay, let's go through some more questions. This one says, what is planned for moving forward with the National Development Plan? Now, I know that that falls under Minister Jay's responsibility. And I also know that we did an interview with Mr. Tristan Hydes a few months ago on kind of where they were with this. So as I recall, they were doing another round of consultation with the groups that came back. These were closed door consultation or questions. So there's multiple phases to it. And that was the last I heard. So maybe we could reach out to that team for further update to see how long that stage would take. And then we can go from there.
True. But that will then also give me an opportunity to revisit that it's not only Minister Jay, and I mean this in a great way, it's a team effort. I mean this in a great way because there'll be aspects under that plan that don't necessarily fall under him, because it's a country plan. This is where he and Minister Cathy have to be working together in terms of how the environment, because if you notice, if you go back and read some of the consultations, what features prominently is the impact on the environment. So that has to be factored in working together the plan, and then also the cost of housing and other aspects that we can do that I mentioned earlier of how you're going to get Caymanians falls under Minister Anglin. So that plan is a team approach, even though it's led by a particular minister. The other teams have to pull their weight to help the minister get the plan over the line.
Very good. All right. Let's continue with the questions and or comments. Oh, someone taking a little jab at you about your support of the, they say of football teams. They say he cheers for the Green Bay Packers. He's so smart, experienced, composed, well-spoken, accessible, warm, thoughtful, and decisive. But maybe not quite when it comes to football. I think they might be saying you're a bit off with your team. But we'll leave that till maybe the next Super Bowl and see if they get there.
Look, a true fan doesn't leave their team no matter. I'm staying in the pocket, even if I get sacked. I'm staying in the pocket.
Absolutely. All right. This one says, Sandra Morning, please ask the Premier about the amendment to add a dependent and why are they being delayed? So I had to clarify what dependent, because I mean, this could be anything really. And so they clarify that this was in relation to immigration. So being able to add a dependent, I guess, to your work permit. Let me just double check. So yes, so that was the question. Apparently there's some delays. They said that they've been waiting for at least 6 months.
I think this question provides us, Sandra, the opportunity to speak about immigration for a few minutes, if we can. I'll take a note of that question and make sure that we have the answer. There isn't a delay. But let's spend a moment or two, because I didn't know that question was coming. Right. Talk about immigration and move away from financial services and housing and other matters. In our opinion as a caucus, and you were in it from a press standpoint or media standpoint in the 2025 campaign, there is no doubt immigration reform was a major feature in the campaign. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely.
It was part of the chamber doesn't like to call them debates. They call them forums, right? I teased Tammy Suleiman about it. They call them forums. Every forum. The only one that they called a debate was the leader debate. Every talk show, anytime an interview occurred, it was about immigration. With good reason. The population has grown significantly. There hadn't been serious reform in over 15 years. So there isn't any doubt that the issue had to be tackled by the next administration, if you were listening to the will of the people during the campaign. Not something any of us dreamed up. Now that that has occurred, I've said to the minister, and the bill has been passed. And again, just as my other comment about being precious to legislation, that doesn't mean that that even quickly wouldn't have some refinements. None of us should be precious about this. If there is an amendment that is going to help or clarify, let's make it. Let's just not wait another 2 or 3 years because I've worked on it already. No, let's make it. What is happening now is now that that bill has been passed and they're working on the operating regulations underneath of it and the fees to go with it, my contribution on the floor of Parliament and continue to work with Minister Miles and his parliamentary secretary, Wayne Panton, is to say, this provides the country with an enormous opportunity. Let's not miss it because there are challenges and there could be snags. In this period where it hasn't commenced, look at the operating regulations, have transparent consultation with the opposition, with stakeholders, of how it's going to work, and importantly, use it as an opportunity to make the system better. You know all too well, Sandra, that you can have great provisions on the books, but if they're not operationalized in a way that the boards are following the vision, that the departments are following the vision, the provisions are there, you need everybody to lean into this. And one of the thoughts that you had, which has been sitting on the shelf, so this isn't Andre Ebanks trying to sound like a genius, is the accreditation system. Where are the good employers? Give them credit where credit is due, where the Caymanians are there, or make up most of the business, are happy, but they know that they need necessary foreign labor because we have more jobs than people. Give them the express lane. For those who aren't so great, if they start to see that business A is now getting things in a week because of their track record, if they don't have some sort of reasonable reason for their track record, which is slightly either delayed or protracted or not quite there, I think just by seeing that happen, they'll get motivated. In addition to that, we also want a system that works swiftly and efficiently when necessary, because in this day and age of AI, in this day and age of outsourcing, and because we have global businesses in Cayman now, the post itself doesn't necessarily have to be here. So then we all lose, because it's either that the post that you know was coming and the work permit should have been issued and could have been done at a faster time frame is there and gets done, or the business gets frustrated. So, well, you know what? I can leave this in Canada. I don't actually have to have the post here because this person can work anywhere where there's Wi-Fi. So then the country loses, because then what happens is that what could have been here is now the Caymanian who's studying. So we have Minister Anglin's launch program, but then the post isn't here for that partnership. We all lose. So who is performing brilliantly? Let's get them into the express lane. Who's not so good, and how are we going to motivate them to get to a better business state and to become a better corporate citizen, and at the same time build the pathway so the Caymanians can see their pathways to the C-suite. That's what that legislation is primarily about. In addition to that, let's look at how the department could be revamped. Minister, you've got a great opportunity. Again, I think it's section 54. I think it's also section 54 of the Constitution, where the overall responsibility of a department is in a minister's hand. Go check it out after the show and see if I'm wrong, Sandra. That doesn't mean you get to hire staff, because section 55 about how someone's appointed, disciplined, transferred, terminated, all that's the civil service, so that there isn't political games. But the overall direction of a department is under a minister. Minister, you've got an enormous opportunity to revamp the department. I'm just giving you one model. I'm not saying it's the perfect answer, but in my private practice, either Appleby or Walker's, there were different teams. There were teams who did banking, teams who did funds, teams who did litigation. Maybe the department could be broken into financial services, tourism, commerce, MPOs. All of those, why they might need a Caymanian and how many Caymanians available varies. In some cases, it varies widely. I'm almost certain that the good corporate actors, the good employers, and the micro and small businesses, not forget them, it's not all about the corporate world, would lean in to help train that staff. You could get innovative and creative with this and bring the staff into the business to say, this is how it works. This is why I need a Caymanian. I know you might look at this application and say, oh, fund accountant, there's a Caymanian who's a CPA, but maybe they need a bespoke type of accountant that a Caymanian could get there with some experience, but can't do it on day one, or a micro and small business. We'll say, oh, well, yes, you could get a Caymanian to do this. I could, but I truly haven't been able to find anybody yet. So take, for example, those who do what I call in social development heavy care, who are there to help those who are the most vulnerable, the elderly in society. Not all those jobs are populated by Caymanians, but the business might be owned by a Caymanian and truly can't find a Caymanian. Then let's get to work and issue the permit where we think is justified in a quick basis. So I said, the point of all of what I'm saying is, Minister, don't be tied to be pressured to bring all this in by a particular artificial date. What's more important to the country is to get it right. It affects all of us. So be creative in this. Do something that no one before you has done. Break it down. Have them trained by each subsector. So when it goes in, and what we talked about earlier, because there'll be Caymanians applying for work permits. There'll be Caymanian businesses applying for work permits. What, again, where we talked about it in the housing context, again, does the applicant have a touch point? Does the business have a touch point within a particular department to say, this is my team lead. This is who I can go to where there's a difficulty. But what then really then disturbs people is when you put something in and you've heard nothing. So let's assign some teams. So he's for it. Yes. I'm not sitting here trying to self-aggrandize. He's for it. He understands it. The caucus before it. Let's set out a new vision, and this is in line with the overall vision of a stronger, fairer Cayman.
And to your point, this listener to the program says what we want is the immigration law to be as foolproof as possible to avoid legal challenges. Certainly. And I mean, that won't necessarily, being foolproof won't necessarily avoid legal challenges, because that's what lawyers are there for. They're there to challenge anything, just to get clarification sometimes, or even just push the boundaries of what, what can and will be allowed. So,
but what I think the writer is getting at is to minimize unnecessary legal challenges that could have been avoided with just a bit more creativity and forethought.
This person says, I've been asking the same question for a while, but yet to get a clear answer. So can you please ask the Premier, what is prohibiting the government from reinstating the Gigi Ham model that seemed to work exceptionally well for Caymanians to own homes?
Nothing wrong with it. In that document I read, let me just fact check myself. I'm pretty sure under our caucus, launch of the house assisted program, which we'll call HOME, will hopefully be up and running this year.
Okay, so coming, soon come. All right, thank you so much to that listener. Hopefully that's as direct as a response as you're going to get. This person says, good morning, San. Glad the Premier got to come on your show to explain what's going on or what they have done. On Radio Cayman, we only got to hear him a few minutes in between news and advertisements. I'll just leave that there. Radio Cayman does fall under his responsibility, so he'll, I guess, deal with that if necessary. Another person says, morning, hun. Remember, Parliament is not only for government business, the other members of Parliament has business to be addressed. Oh, yes, this is a true point. The government committed to set times and dates and still refuses to the dates and times. I'm happy to explain why they do that. Politics at hand that sometimes we don't see or can identify. So can you address this individual who says that your government is setting dates and times and then refuses certain dates and times?
I've never heard that. I haven't heard that. I don't know how you prove that other than to say every time that we set out Parliament, it's occurred. In
Mhm.
addition to that, to go back to Radio Cayman, I think it was more than a few minutes. I think I stayed extra. I asked the deputy governor to give way, to give extra time and stayed longer. So I
Yeah.
think I arrived at 7:30 and didn't leave until 9. So yeah, there was I think a 15-minute news break and a couple of intervals, but I was there over an hour. And it was a
Mhm.
great conversation, just like I think this one is.
Yeah. Well, I'm not here to run Radio Cayman for anyone, but to that point, they are hiring a deputy. What's the position called? Deputy director. So if anyone's interested and think that they could, help shape things up over there, go and apply for the deputy director position. It's open.
But I think I
Um,
mentioned in the parliamentary agenda, just to touch on that the other point, that there are motions, there are other private member bills, there'll be parliamentary questions. I think I might have said it quickly, but just to
mhm.
recap, we went to the government website, legislation.gov.ky. We looked at the government bills present, but I think in that, just to reiterate, there's other business of other private members and the opposition.
Mhm. All right, this person makes a comment, says Singapore's culture has remained at the forefront in Singapore simply because they set the tone for those coming into Singapore. The law is laid down for those who have the privilege to move to Singapore. There's no ambiguity in what the expectations are when you move there. Unfortunately for us, we have continued the colonial mindset, which dictates that anything coming in is better than what was originally here. Interesting. As a result, our culture is fragmented and almost anecdotal. Wow. Powerful
However,
commentary.
however, I think that goes to the root of something I was mentioned earlier when we talked about the outcomes for this year. So anyone who would have missed it at the near to the top of the show, I
Mhm.
laid out caucus objectives for 2026, and that was one of them, to hone our national identity. So in that last comment, you can see parts of what I was saying earlier. So when I visited other countries, and I
Mhm.
mentioned at the top of the show some of the more recent ones, or Singapore last term and India this term, just to give you a very small example. This is a
Mhm.
true story. India would have been November and into December of last year, after the JMC, and the purpose of that trip was Cayman. Our three beautiful islands was invited by the OECD to explain to the other countries how, if you lean into tax compliant laws and rules, your country can not only survive but thrive. Unprompted by me. This was an invitation that came down
Mhm.
from the OECD asking would Cayman do this. And their plenary was in India. I thought it was a good opportunity to go. One, because of the invitation. I don't know how any sitting financial services minister could say no when you have that opportunity on the world stage.
Mhm.
Two, India had been on my mind from last term as a place that I thought is growing. Are there any synergies there? There's a large Indian population here. Is there anything that we can learn from? I was surprised when I traveled through India, and I was in 3 cities.
Mhm.
The prime minister was extraordinarily popular. And I'm not just saying this to you, Sandra, on CMR. I said this at
Mhm.
what I'm about to tell you, I said at a Cayman Finance fireside chat at the end of December. Everywhere I went, whether it was the receptionist at the hotel, the bartender in a restaurant, loved the prime minister. So I kept asking people like, well, why is he so popular? I'm in the business. Like, what makes him so popular? And the country is vast, right? So it's a huge country with like 20, 27, 28, 9 different states that speak different languages.
Mhm.
And I met with one of the UK's deputy ambassadors, and I asked him the same question. And he said, because the prime minister has made India first a policy. So
Mhm.
he said, for me, who'd been here before that, it was a little bit uncomfortable because where is the country headed? What will this mean for me, someone who's non-Indian? But I have to say, because he planted the flag that way, the whole country now feels more unified and is now moving forward and is now in an exciting place. So although it was slightly uncomfortable for me at the beginning, it worked. So if they, with now 1 billion people, can get that feeling, you're telling me with us, not you, Sandra, I'm just saying, as a matter of speaking,
Right.
that we as a country with roughly 90,000 can't get together, push our identity first. It doesn't mean you're excluding anybody, but it just means the home has to be for Caymanians in the roundest sense to take the country forward. It has to be the way. And that, to the person's point about Singapore, I see what they're saying. I hear you. Because at some point, we have to lose the fragmentation, solve problems, unify, and innovate into the future. And not only for ourselves. What I said to the Cayman Finance crowd was, largely speaking, most of us at our age, the way Cayman's economy is going, should roughly be okay. We know we have problems and people we still have to assist. Where our minds are as a caucus is what happens to our kids and their kids. What Cayman do they inherit? That's what I got from listening to people talk about, whether it's Singapore and India when I was in their countries. What are we going to leave for them? Because this is where they call home, and we shouldn't have to apologize for that.
Okay. Very good. A few more questions as we start to wrap things up here a bit. Oops, we got that one already. We have trying to balance the ones coming in on WhatsApp, and then we'll go and check some of the chats coming in on the live stream. This one says, hey, Sandy, can you ask him what they're doing to find alternative trading partners? Because the U.S. products are expensive now because of tariffs, and clearly the U.S. is not a reliable partner for any country right now. So the crazy thing about this, though, is their tariffs reach far and wide. So, they're putting tariffs on China, on all countries, Mexico, all over. So that isn't going to necessarily mean that we can get the products cheaper from those countries directly, I suppose, because the consumers worldwide are going to pay for Trump's tariffs, not just the Americans. But if you could respond to that.
But what I would say is that when I at JMC, this was one of the things that was useful about JMC and speaking to other OTs. And although they don't come to JMC because this is primarily for the OTs, the Crown dependency, so the three of them, Guernsey, Jersey, Isle of Man, are there other jurisdictions that have quality that we should begin to open up a line of dialogue with? So, for example, Minister DaCosta is... And that's my 10 o'clock. That's my next meeting. We're working with the Chamber of Commerce to go through the duty codes to be able to see what we can reduce in duty. Been talked about for a while. We actually need to go ahead and do it. Where we can reduce duty to lower the cost of living and then motivate healthier foods and eating. But at the same time, from listening to some of those other leaders, there are countries that are near to us that have quality foods that maybe we need to open up that line of dialogue to be able to actually trade with them and agriculture. So I don't want to go into specific names now because it's very exploratory, but myself and Minister Jay took a very, very interesting meeting that started off as a financial services meeting, but they asked for not me, the actual financial services business, asked for the agriculture minister to be there because they had links in their home country. And they said, look, you all are providing us a great place for a financial services business. We think our country can help provide you with produce at a lower cost. So we're going to look to circle back to that conversation in the coming months to see where we can actually get a better cost of food. There have been exploratory missions before. I think there's been trips to Central America in the past, but I think now it's really time to put some focus on this to try to see if we can get a lower cost of certain key goods to be able to pass on to the consumer.
All right, very good. Thank you so much to our listener for that question. Island Pearl says, I know someone applied in 2019 and nothing, kept asking for updated docs and nothing. People apply years. This is about the National Housing Trust, years after and living in their houses now. And again, I mean, obviously individual cases need to be looked at, because I've been in this situation before, Island Pearl, where someone will say that and come to find out they really haven't submitted the documentation in the manner, that it's been requested. Although someone basically said today, for these agencies like private sector, do they have, SOPs and stuff that they actually follow, and whether or not that sort of stuff is in the public domain. So they say, do these various entities like the Housing Trust, statutory bodies, and core government have guidelines/regulations which cover how applications and responses should be sent out and timeframes, like how the private sector has with regard to strict service standard policies? So that's a good question. Mood Mender says that I think our leader is lost. He's taking credit from other MPs. So I'm not quite sure what that means. But obviously, if other MPs are not here, or you have a cross section of things, as you mentioned earlier, that, might fall under multiple ministries or ministers, it's still the government collectively as a whole trying to push forward initiatives. So are you trying to take credit from other MPs?
I don't think that has been my contribution today. I think that I have given a strong flavor for what not just ministers are working on, but what also I think inclusion of the parliamentary secretaries are working on. So I don't think so, but it's hard to view yourself. You tell me, Sandra.
I mean, no, and I appreciate you speaking, because there's certain ministers who haven't been on the program, and so we're still interested in certain things that fall under their responsibility. So if you're in a position to answer it, why not? Right? So it's about getting the business of the country done, really. Sustainable K-Man in the house, good morning. Says NHDT affordable housing property off of Halifax Road / the Linford Pearson Highway that sits in a large wetland basin next to Randike Garden. The Tarpon Alley Nature and Bike Trail proposal should be in the plans to mitigate flooding and greatly increase safe and healthy outdoor space in growing developed areas. So I don't think that was a question. I guess that was just a comment. Good morning. Mellofella says, is CIG considering multi-story apartment buildings as part of the solutions mixed for low-income housing? Only building detached single-family homes wouldn't provide enough homes to seriously impact the problem. Now, I know there was a task force, a housing task force, that actually came up with some of these solutions. Has that report been put in the public domain as yet? The National Housing Task Force?
I'll go back to see if that one's been put in the public domain or not. But this is where, if you go back earlier in the show, where I was discussing housing and the housing policy that's been approved by Cabinet, where we do now have to look back and see what our dwelling should be. I think for certain areas, like beach renourishment is an issue, setbacks should be made in legislation. But then if the setback comes, should there be higher building heights in certain areas? When I talk to people, they say, like, look, land is finite. And I'm not saying that we should be higher everywhere, but should we be higher in certain places? So I think that's part of what's going to come through the housing plan to make this come to fruition of where we're going as a country from a property standpoint. Now, I'm only doing a time check because I'll have to leave in a few minutes. So
Yes.
if you want to start to begin to wind down so we don't have an abrupt ending.
Mr. Amelia says, I think that if a Caymanian has to train an expat in any position, they're qualified to hold that position. Good morning to Mia. Mia says, given the importance of property ownership for generational wealth and retirement security, what initiatives or programs is the government considering to help families purchase and retain property as long-term investments?
And that goes back to relaunching home.
Yeah.
But other thing that I want to drop there with that makes me think about, as part of the immigration reform, some of the more permanent categories can achieve that status by real estate. What we as a caucus, so that I'm not taking credit, was we as a caucus have said is, should we look at other investments? If we believe that someone on the road to the more permanent end has established that they are going to be good for Cayman, why only offer real estate as an investment and continue to exacerbate the housing problem? Can they not invest in a social cause, an education cause, a health cause? Because some of the success that we're seeing come to the island shows that we are getting a certain caliber of investor, which is a good thing. How do we now best channel that and transfer that so that the success of Cayman is more widely shared by everybody and not just pigeonholed into real estate?
All right. So lots of questions. This one is about, it finally happened in the USA. Digital currency is now law on Saturday. How does this affect, if any, changes here? This is something that might fall under your remit.
So did you want to go back to read that next comment, or you want me to touch that one?
No, you can go ahead and touch on the digital currency one.
All right. So if you go back to the website and we looked at the registered land amendment, there's also 3 other bills, if you want to pull it up.
Yes, let me go back here and just show this again. Wonderful. Yep, there we go.
Okay, take it from the top. I'll also look, because that one is small for me to read.
So we have Mutual Funds Amendment Bill 2026. Private Funds Amendment Bill 2026, Virtual Asset Service Providers Amendment Bill 2026.
So those 3 are all designed to assist with one issue, even though there are 3 bills, but you need all 3. So I'll try to summarize this in just average terms. So our current investment funds business, which now the Monetary Authority has over 30,000 registered funds. One of the largest register of funds in investment funds in the world, both mutual funds and what they call private equity funds. A number of them are moving to utilize blockchain technology to maintain their or their ownership registers. Blockchain technology, as you may know, is a technology that's utilized for cryptocurrencies. So initially, as they should, our regulators said, hang on a second, these new what's now called token funds are utilizing blockchain technology. Is this the same thing as cryptocurrency, which needs to be regulated in a particular way? After consultation and understanding, those funds are utilizing the underlying technology, but not for cryptocurrency, but for what they now call token funds, which is just same product, different technology. So in other words, the investment funds are starting to use this new technology. If we as a country do not move to it and don't allow for it and don't streamline our legislation for it, we could end up being Blockbuster and other jurisdictions enter into the investment fund space and become Netflix because they're using the new technology. Same movies being made underneath, different technology. So what these bills do is clarify and streamline what protections and regulatory measures are there for what's called token funds that are using this technology, so that we can continue to keep abreast of international and technological advancements and maintain our international standing and reputation and still maintain a strong investment fund space. Now, because that has now moved slightly away from cryptocurrency, what we have to do now under that virtual asset service providers legislation is that it's not fully commenced. So this goes to the root of that question. What we need to then now decide is, for the phase 2, where there is cryptocurrency, what's our future there? In my view, Cayman needs to be prudent because there have been reputational risks. Some have been spectacular international cases where it has not gone right. But at the same time, we also know that this is the future and it's growing as we become more institutionalized. So what parts of it align better with our traditional international financial services that we can now move to? Under that legislation, there is an opportunity for what's called a sandbox, which means the regulator essentially calls timeout, put experimental stuff into this space. Let's see what works, what doesn't, so that we can then retool our legislation and know the type of businesses that we think is fit and fits the profile for Cayman. So it's a very good space to study. It's a very good question to mention, and we're on the road to that.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
All right,
Sandra, I'm
fantastic.
gonna
Thank
have
you.
to
Yes, absolutely.
leave
Thank you
you
very, very much.
here
Appreciate it.
with a few closing comments.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Number one, it's good to see you. Two, I hope we are going to get pickleball in.
Yes, I'm ready.
This has been threatened for some time, folks. This has not been me.
Yep.
I've been asking, but I understand you had to recover. And
Yep.
so
I'm
physical
ready.
health applies to Sandra too.
Absolutely.
But eventually we have to get our game going and
Yes.
have our exercise and our mental health break. So I look forward to
Absolutely.
joining you soon, maybe after travels and after keeping the next parliamentary date. Now,
Well, yes, I'm ready.
I'll allow you before I do a wind up.
No, I was just going to say that I'm ready. I'm feeling much better in terms of knee. I tested it out a few weeks ago and recovery was pretty okay. So, first couple of games, I want you to go easy on me because, we got to do it step by step, but I'm ready to get back out there.
I was going to invite you to do the same thing because I don't play as much as I would like to because of schedule. So don't think I'll be any kind of Roger Federer out there. I'm going to try to do the best I can to. We'll take it easy on each other.
Yeah,
Sandra, it's an important conversation. I, as you say, I'd like to see you more often. I'm going to try to put it in the calendar, get Ministry Matters going, because it's hugely important. I said the same thing on Radio Cayman, and feel free to pinch me and say, look, I haven't seen you in a few weeks. I know you've been busy, but come on out. I'm going to try to make a deliberate effort to do that because it's important that the public gets communication through wide forums. Because not in this day and age, not every watches the same channels. People absorb news differently. The algorithm on your phone can present news differently to you. So we have to do it as far and wide as possible. But I want to leave Cayman with this. This is a term of transformation. You have an NCFC coalition that is charged by you to take the country forward. On the campaign trail, I heard it up and down. Whoever comes next is going to have to make some hard decisions. And you're going to have to be able to deal with those hard decisions. Now that we're facing those and starting to make those, let's look beyond what might be an initial adjustment or setback. Let's keep our eyes focused on the future for a stronger, fairer Cayman. If you're in government, whether civil service, whether parliament, or opposition, government, whether you're in business, whether you're an NPO, whether you're an average citizen, we have to get over these long-standing problems that have held the country back. We have to do it in a collaborative and unified way to find solutions above acrimony, above tension. Do it in an inclusive fashion, because at the end of the day, we need a stronger, fairer Cayman for our children and their children. And as we embark on this term of transformation, where I've already started to see examples of this, people leaning in, giving ideas, stepping forward, because we know how strong a country overall we have, but it can be stronger, it can be better. With collaboration, with focus, with God's help, we will do so. So God bless you, Sandra.
Thank you.
God bless the Cayman Islands. We have hope. We have inspiration. NCFC, promises made, promises kept. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it, Premier.
God bless.
All right, folks. So again, we thank the Honorable Premier, Mr. Andre Ebanks, for coming on the program today. And yes, we're going to be pushing to see him more often. We didn't get to all of your questions, but I understand his team will be going through and having a look at what else may have been missed. Shaka says before embarking on importing affordable food products from neighboring countries, please take a look at their health standards and mortality rates related to diet. Well, that's a good one, Shaka. But I'll tell you what, the interesting thing about that is that not only as it relates to these other countries, but I don't know how much you're following what this current administration, the Trump administration, has been doing when it comes to the safety and health of products, but they've actually been getting rid of a lot of the legislation that fell under the FDA that actually helped promote health and wellness and protected the consumers. So I know you're thinking it's just third world countries that are doing that, but it's no longer just third world countries. It is literally the United States of America. So a lot of their products, they're deregulating products. They no longer care what's in them. They are doing, all sorts of crazy stuff. There's actually a lady that I follow on Instagram, and her entire page is about all of the legislation that has been falling away, all of the health checks on things that were once in place that are no longer in place because of this government. This government simply doesn't care that much about the health of its own people, because it's the money, it's the big business that matters. If I find the page, I will, I don't follow a lot of pages, to be honest, but when I find it, I'll share it with you, because I think you would be very, very interested to see how the products coming out of the US in this vein are no longer as safe as you think they are, because this government has said to hell with it. Let me just see if I can have a quick look. I do send one guy, he's a Trump supporter, but he's on the verge of changing his mind. I sent him a lot of this stuff for him to try to educate himself. So I'm just having a quick look at our chats to see if there's anything, if I can find this one. Because you got to follow her. I mean, it is so interesting to see how the health of a nation is even being impacted by political decisions. We saw, by the way, did you guys see that because the measles outbreak is now really becoming an issue for them? Dr. Oz, who's a big time JFK and President Trump supporter, he's been all over the map. Like, some people have even questioned whether or not he should have his doctor's license anymore. But now he came out this weekend saying, please go get vaccinated against measles, because it is literally resurrecting in the craziest of ways in that country. And so there you have it. Another fine example of when you throw medicine and good law and all these things, when you throw the everything out the window, the people start to die and they're getting all sorts of diseases and stuff. I'm going to find that channel for you. And I'll find it for you. It's not coming up right now. But next time I see something, because she looks at like pharmaceuticals, what they're doing with like the water. There's even, oh Lord, there's even pesticides and stuff that they had banned and that you couldn't use, that now, oh, here, is this her? No, I don't think that's her. But anyway, she does like a lot of I think this might be her. Hold on. She does a lot of the health related things. So like how your food gets plastic in it, microplastics. Yes, more toxic chemicals and less jobs. I think this is it. This might be it. Yeah, I think this could be her. All right, I'm gonna send you this one. It's Tabor, Tabor Place. And I think there's another one as well. I don't think she's the only one, but have a look at her. I think that you'll find it very, very interesting to see how, government deregulation. So I get what you're saying, and this has always been one of my concerns as well, the use of pesticides and all this stuff. I mean, if you get it here from a neighboring country and it has pesticides in it, and that's going to turn around and kill people even more with the cancers and all sorts of, diseases and newborns and stuff like that, is it really worth the risk? But my point is, the United States of America is probably not in a much better position anymore, because it's just, Wanda says the whole Trump administration is batshit crazy. I'm not going to argue with it. So yeah. What did Nikki say? Do you know what you call a small black child? Okay, this probably looks like someone who's going to get a block here. Morning, Can Barantes, ¿cómo estás? I'm mentioning that diet-related issues are because of our dependence on U.S. food product. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, listen, no matter where you're getting it from, I think that you can, you have to do your due diligence. And so, products, how they're grown, everything can certainly be a problem. So congrats to the couple who got married during the Bad Bunny's halftime show, by the way. So they were invited to have their wedding there. And yeah, they actually got married in the live performance. They had witnesses and they signed their marriage certificate and everything. That was nice. Oh Lord, have mercy. Someone showed the Turning Point halftime show dancers. I have to laugh when I see some of this stuff because it is kind of funny. All right, so there you have it. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what else to say. Tomorrow is Tuesday. So we will have our guests in the studio for the first half of the program. And then on Wednesday, we have representatives coming from the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and they're going to be sharing with us some of their ongoing initiatives as well. But yeah. Okay. Let me just see here if there's anything else pressing this morning. I think we're good. Okay. Remind me tomorrow to show you this video from Piers Morgan, Uncensored. There's a video that I want to show you guys that I was kind of taken aback by, but I shouldn't be because this is the world that we now live in. See you guys tomorrow morning. Happy Monday. The sun is out. I don't know what the wave action is in town, but hopefully it's calming down a little bit. I think you saw our story over the weekend about how the nor'wester has impacted the ability for ships to come in. We had some ships off of South Sound that were waiting patiently to hopefully be able to come in and start to offload some groceries. So the grocery stores were kind of feeling the pinch a little bit. And as one of the grocery store owners said, sometimes they said, I love how he said it, actually. Let me read the direct quote because I really liked how he put it in context. He said, at the end of the day, we live on an island. And in most instances, we all make people forget that. Times like these, we get reminded. Isn't that beautiful, though? That most of the time we forget that we live in an island because we get stuff in so seamlessly, all the goods that we need and everything else. However, week and a half of, a nor'wester and the grocery supplies start to dwindle a little bit. We're then reminded that, honey, chill. Yeah, we got to be thankful that we don't have those all the time. But it's all good. I think we should be able to get some ships in this week. So here is a recap for the Honorable Premier Andre Ebanks of what this government, the National Coalition for Caymanians government, has done in the past 8 months.
Making our headlines today, Tuesday, February 3rd, the Honorable Premier Andre Ebanks recapped his successful first 8 months in office in an open letter. Cayman's educators paused for a National Day of Professional Development, and Cayman's newest national chess champions have been crowned. Good evening and welcome to CIG-TV News, your official source for the latest and most accurate government information. I'm Kafara Augustin. The Honorable Premier Andre Ebanks is reflecting on what he calls an amazing 8 months leading the National Coalition for Caymanians, or NCFC government. In a letter to the nation published on gov.ky, the Premier highlights landmark achievements, including the passage of the immigration reform legislation, otherwise known as the Caymanian Protection Act, and approval of the country's 2026-2028 budget. Premier Ebanks also points to international trips promoting Cayman's financial services sector, including a historic first visit to India and the government's quick response in delivering hurricane relief to Jamaica. The Premier says his administration has set a clear policy direction through the Strategic Policy Statement, with 7 broad outcomes guiding spending over the next 2 years. He closed the letter by asking the people of the Cayman Islands to lean in with the government to take advantage of present opportunities. To read the full letter, visit gov.ky. Public school students were given the day off last Friday, January 30th, to allow the country's educators the day to focus on the future of delivering education services in the Cayman Islands. The 2026 National Education Conference was hosted by the Ministry of Education and Training and the Department of Education Services and welcomed teachers, school leaders, and specialized professionals physically to the John Gray High School gymnasium and virtually. Minister for Education and Training, the Honorable Ralston Anglin, spoke to the value of inclusion and innovation to providing an enhanced experience to Cayman students.
An important day where you, our deliverers of education services, come together in this fashion to ensure you continue to collaborate, you continue to innovate, you continue to include, you continue the journey for positive impact. Innovation. We've included lots and lots of tools for you as practitioners, for students. We've invested heavily in technology. We've just rolled out a new system that helps you better manage your schools, your students. We got a one-to-one device policy. We will continue to invest in technology, but it's not lost on me that we must also ensure that with that technology comes great responsibility. And we must ensure that we continue to offer you the in-depth training to ensure that the technology is a key enabler to better practice.
To watch the conference on demand, visit the Cayman Islands Government YouTube channel. Now for today's sports news. The 2026 Cayman Islands National Chess Champions concluded on February 1st, crowning 2 national champions. In the Absolute Championship, Mike McDonald claimed the title with a strong 7.5 points from 9 games, finishing ahead of Ryan Blackwood and Kuda Kwashin Chinaki in a highly competitive field. In the female championship, women candidate master Zara Majid delivered a standout performance, scoring 8 of 9 to secure the national title. The championships feature the country's top players and were hosted once again at the John Gray High School. Time now for our weather forecast. Dry and breezy.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.